All right, everybody, I want to welcome all to the regular board meeting of the Cameron Park Community Services District. It is Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. We're beginning our meeting at 6:37 p.m. And so let's go ahead and start. General Manager, would you please take the roll call?
Yeah, Director Easton,
Here.
Director Carlson,
Here.
Director Bazette,
Here.
Director Scobie,
Here.
Director Wooten.
Here.
Wonderful. Now time for our Pledge of Allegiance. Director Wooten, would you lead us in that, please?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, as we move along, I want to make sure everybody is aware that the teleconferencing meeting and all of our protocols will be followed. They're attached in the agenda, available on our website as well as by email for anybody who's on that list. Public testimony will be received on each agenda item as it is called. Principal party on each side of an issue is allocated 10 minutes to speak. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes, except with the consent of the board. Individuals shall be allowed to speak on an item only once. Members of the audience are asked to volunteer their name before addressing the board. The board reserves the right to waive said rules by a majority vote. And the reminder for some of our public who are not normally here, because we are in Zoom protocols, there will be points of open forum and public testimony that if you would like to speak, you can use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Both myself, general manager, and our clerk of the board will be paying attention to that, and we will get you on as quickly as we can. You will also see a timer when there's 30 seconds left for your allotted time. I appreciate your participation tonight. All right, we'll start now with the adoption of the agenda. Put that to the board. Do we have any questions, comments, or motions regarding the agenda?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I second. Felicity.
Have a motion and a second. General Manager, would you please take roll call?
Director Easton.
Aye.
Director Carlson,
Aye.
Director Bazette,
Aye.
Director Scobie,
Aye.
Director Wooten.
Aye.
Wonderful. All right, we move now to recognitions and presentations. General Manager, we don't have anything on the list. Has anything been added since we talked?
Nope.
Okay, so we will move now to our open forum for non-agenda items. This is when members of the public may speak on any item not on the agenda that falls within the jurisdiction of the board of directors. So we will open the forum for non-agenda items at this point. If you'd like to speak for our attendees, feel free to raise your hand and we will call on you in order. I do see a hand. Ms. Moya has her hand raised. If we could unmute her.
I can. Go ahead, Linda.
Hi there. Good evening, all of you.
Good evening.
My name is Linda Moya. Here with me is Cynthia Ray. We are property owners on Alhambra Court. I addressed the board last year regarding the hazardous fire conditions behind our homes. At that meeting, the board asked that the weed abatement staff to pursue a resolution to the situation, which they have pursued. Since that time, Jessica, the weed abatement staff member, has contacted the owners behind my property and work started this last Monday. The contractor is currently using a bulldozer, however, to clear and provide us with, he said, 75-foot defensible space. In some areas it's 75, in some areas it's 30. However, the contractor is using the tactics similar to that used by a contractor that Cameron Park Community Services used 3 years ago. And that is to just push the debris up into a big 10-foot high wall and a big mass of debris, which is a continued fire hazard, and didn't do anything about the 10-foot part that was left from 3 years ago. Again, creating a super hazardous for all of us back here. In addition to that, he has not completed his job and it only went part way. I spoke with Jennifer today. She's on vacation in Utah, and she called me back on her personal cell phone. And we talked about what was going on back there, and she was going to have a future conversation with the contractor either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, first thing. And so she was going to continue to pursue that to make sure he did what it was he was contracted to do. We're very grateful that she's been able to accomplish this much, because the people that own the property behind part of this, that 36-acre parcel, live in Peru and other out-of-state, out-of-country areas. The property adjacent to this 36-acre parcel is still not in compliance with the ordinance at all. Apparently, the owners of this property live in Lodi, California, and they have a small farmhouse sitting out in the middle of their property. It's about an 800 to 900 square foot home, surrounded by pasture land and a couple of cows. Jessica mailed them a letter stating that to the property owner, stating that they're not in compliance and they needed to do something because the homeowners on Cameron Park area are very upset over the big problem of fire. And they haven't responded to her at all. So we are asking the board tonight to direct the staff to continue to pursue a resolution to this issue, to continue working with the contractor that's currently out there, and to move forward and use your ordinance, your weed abatement ordinance, to make the property owner that lives in Lodi mitigate the fire hazard that's created behind a couple of homes here on Alhambra Court. So we're hoping you can do this because your ordinance does allow for it. If the property owner won't do it, your ordinance states that you guys can do it and bill the property owner. And we're hoping that you guys will move forward with that if that's what it comes to, in order to help us out with this big fire hazard. We thank you for your time and consideration of these matters, and hopefully we can get some resolution to this horrible fire issue behind us.
Thank you, Ms. Moya. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate you bringing that to our attention tonight. I remember that from last year, and glad that there'd been some progress made. General Manager, Chief Morantz, do we have any other details to add, to update to that?
Oh, I think Sherry's got the info.
Chief Morantz?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just making sure my video is working. Okay.
That's okay.
Yes, so I again, as Ms. Moya mentioned, Jessica is on vacation, but she's been, as she always is, very responsive. So I talked to her this evening, and the contractors started Monday, and yes, they use a bulldozer. I mean, this property has not been treated in quite a while, so they're using bulldozers and personnel out there with whether it be chainsaws or weed eaters. But the expectation, and with her talking to the contractors, that they were going to chip the materials that Ms. Moya said they were piled up. Because a dozer does disturb the soil, and it does push the brush and everything up into a pile. But the expectation is that they will chip everything and remove that hazard. And they're also, based on her conversation with them, going 75 foot when we traditionally require the 30 foot. And so I think that this is very, it's very positive outcome to a very long process of dealing with the complications of multiple owners of properties who live out of the country. And there's an attorney that Jessica actually had to track down based on the county not even having their contact information. So she was able to contact him and get at least one of the landowners to pony up some money to make this happen. So there's some good faith there. I don't think all the property owners are in agreement here, and I think some are bearing the burden more than others. But like I said, Jessica has been working with Ms. Moya, and I understand their concerns for the hazard out there. It would be very as it applies to like a lien or the ordinance. I mean, we're talking. I think the property that Jessica was talking about clearing between the property and the homes would be maybe 40,000 plus. just to get, some type of a fuel break. So I'm very happy that the property owners are funding this and taking care of their responsibility and not requiring the district to do it. I'm not aware of the property with the Lodi owner. So if there's more information I'm not aware of, maybe we can, discuss this with Ms. Moya next week. But again, it comes down to, communicate with the property owner and hopefully they will take this on. So she expects completion of this project on Saturday of this week.
Thank you for that update, Chief Moranza. It sounds like we are in good process to get that, at least that one resolved. And I think I'd like to just go ahead and ask staff, as you said, to follow up with Ms. Moya on the second property, just to find out what's happening there and what we can possibly do in that. Be great. Thank you. Okay. We are still in open forum for non-agenda items with public. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak at this point? And Ms. Moya, I will ask you, if you're sticking around, go ahead and put your hand down. That way others can put theirs up and we can call on them too. That'd be great. Thank you.
I don't see anybody additional to talk.
Okay. Okay, we see Ms. Moya has her hand back up. Ms. Moya, is there another item that you wanted to address to the board? We can unmute her.
Okay. Let me find my attendees. Hold on.
No problem.
Okay. Okay. Linda, you can go ahead. Is there another additional item?
Yes.
Yes,
Say who you
my
are.
name is Cynthia Ray. Can
Oh,
you hear me?
You're there with, I guess you're there with Linda. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a homeowner here. I live at 3001 Alhambra Court. So my concern is, I have spoken to Jessica many times. Behind my house, there is,
That's the Lodi property.
that's a Lodi property. So it's behind my property and around my house. So I don't think anybody has been addressed to that property to have the, to have it, cleaned up. Because this has been there, we've been there 26 years. And this has been going on for quite a long time. So I like to know what has been done, if anything. I don't think as a homeowner, we should have to address the property management people that own that property. So I like to know what's being done with that because my insurance went up $1,500 because of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I want some
Resolution.
resolution of what's being done with that.
Yeah, we could do it. Ask if they,
So what have you guys done?
we want you to pursue it.
We want you to pursue it and we want to know the resolution, what's being done with this.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Well,
Ms.
yeah,
Ricketts?
I mean, we've been a homeowner here now for 26 years. And we've not had a problem. And now all of a sudden, this has become a major issue. I mean, we're taxpayers. And I want to know why this is happening.
I just want to make sure you used your full time if there's anything else you wanted to add. Otherwise, we'll step back and we'll address that.
Okay, let him go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Appreciate you bringing
Yeah.
that up. In previous comments, it sounds like we are going to have staff reach out to Ms. Moya, and we can reach out to you too to find out. I don't know that we have the information unless Chief Morantz, you have something in front of you about that property.
I'm checking on that right now as we know, like Jessica is in Eastern or actually Central Standard Time. And so I sent her a text, but I just have, I guess I would just ask, is this the first time? Yeah, I would just ask like how long we've been aware of there's an issue, because I know we're so very responsive and when there's a complaint, we send letters out. And we sent another letter, and we sent, and that is all we can do unless the district, unless we have funds to abate. And there are so many properties, as we know, in Cameron Park, there's not enough money to do that. The county's faced that same thing with their ordinances, that there's not enough money to abate all the properties. So I think as soon as we're aware of something, we aggressively send letters out to notify them. So we'll definitely follow up on this and give you feedback.
Well, I can speak on that too. I know that letters have been sent every year, and like Chief Moran said, we have to prioritize some of the lots that get done, and that is a heavier lift lot, but I know exactly which one it is off of Verada. That's the access to it that backs up to her address, and we have sent letters every year out there, multiple, so we'll follow up again this year.
All right, thank you for that, staff. So it sounds like what needs to happen here, we'll check the records and we'll follow up with Ms. Moya, with Ms. Ray to see what else needs to happen there and how next steps. Okay, thank you for doing that. All right, back into open forum. I see another hand. Barbara Rogers.
Hey, Barbara.
Hi, I just think it's really important that Sherry and Jed, that you really are going to have to educate the public on the funding issues, because I don't think everybody fully understands that we just don't have enough funding to do everything. So it just, and the people that are listening, I hope you realize that it costs, as Sherry said, thousands and thousands of dollars to abate these lots. And when we don't have the funding, it's a difficult choice to choose what you're going to do. Do you do this one and then nothing else? So I just want the public to realize that our department is, I believe, been working diligently for years. And it all comes down to the property owners, and just not the property owners that own the large lots outside and live outside the country. I mean, the property owners all over, and it expands to the county. If people need to do the right thing, and I hope, and I think it's working in a lot of ways, but in this case, I mean, when you have to chase these people all over the world, it's a difficult task. So, I wish I could just wave a magic wand and come up with a bunch of money and say, here, go after these people. And even if they do file a lien, it takes years to recoup that money. So I just want the public to understand that it comes down to dollars and cents also. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate that. And that's just worth reiterating for our other members of our public here is we've been at this for a few years, just a few years now when the ordinance was passed, and we have a certain amount budgeted that we have to prioritize based on which properties need abatement, what we can afford out of those funds, as well as any sense of recovery. It is not a one-year approach. It's not even a 3-year approach. We're in the long haul for this, and we've seen good results so far. That said, I really appreciate Ms. Moya and Ms. Ray coming to us. Always appreciate having our public here. So staff will follow up with you, and we'll put that in the queue and see where we can best allocate the efforts and resources here, because we do want this taken care of. And Ms. Ray, I do hear your angst over the raised premium. All of us as a board have heard that from numerous people in our community. There's lots we can't do about that. There is some we can. And we're working toward that with our fire partners too. So please know that we're moving toward that. Okay, do I have any other comments from the public? Barbara, I see your hand up again. Do you have another item that you'd like to bring? Okay,
No.
okay, and down. Okay. Seeing no other hands or other issues, we will go ahead and close open forum at this point. And we'll move to our next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the consent agenda. I would like to ask to remove item 7, to put in the general business. And do we have any other comments? Any other items you'd like pulled for general business or a motion?
This is Felicity. I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item 7 to item 9 for discussion.
This is Ellie Wooten, and I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Directors Carlson and Wooten. Can we take roll call, Jill?
Director Easton?
Aye.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Aye.
Director Wooten?
Aye.
We have approval of consent agenda with number 7 removed. And so then with that, we will go to our general business. Starting with item 9, items removed from the consent agenda for discussion. So that will be number 7 is where we will start. General Manager, can you just give us the setup for this, please?
Yeah, this is, these are the remaining settlement agreements for the litigation related to the community center warranty work that was done with Angus and Terry. And we're asking the board's approval tonight of those settlement agreements. The district embarked on this effort back in 2017. February of 2017 is when this started. The board executed an agreement with Angus and Terry to have them investigate whether or not there were construction flaws before our 10-year warranty lapsed. Angus and Terry did find some construction flaws and then have litigated with the parties, the contractors that they felt were responsible for those. So this is the last of those settlement agreements, and that's what we're doing tonight.
Thank you for that. Yeah, this has been a long time coming, and I know as a board, we're grateful to see this. The reason that I wanted this, well, I'll come back to this in a second, but I don't know if there's any comments, questions from other members of the board. We'll open it up for public comment.
This is Director Carlson. Just to provide a high level, this is as a result of a building warranty. Is that correct, Jill?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, there's been a lot of work behind this, a lot of parties involved, and I think it's come out favorably for the district. So I'm also very pleased to see it coming forward. Thank you.
I have a comment. This came to the board before I was on the board, and I kind of wish I had joined earlier because I would have perhaps changed the approach. That's all I have.
I will save my comments for after we hear from public. But are there any other members of the board who'd like to speak before I open it up to the public?
Director Bassett here. This is several years in the making, isn't it? How many years does this go back?
The board executed an agreement with Angus and Terry, the law firm, in February of 2017. So
Well,
it's been.
so we're talking 4 years. Well, I just think it is time to close this chapter of these lawsuits. And I think a small community, we do affect businesses and people that live here. And so I'm all in favor of resolving this as soon as we possibly can.
I'm kind of backing up what the other directors just said.
Thank you, Director Wooten. Okay, having heard from all, I'll open it up to the public. Is there any members of the public who would like to ask questions or comment on this item?
I don't see anything.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and close public comment. Just wanted to give my fellow directors a chance to speak. I'm in agreement. I'm really grateful that this is coming to an almost close here for how long it's taken. And I'm really grateful for the work of Angus and Terry in getting this done. And there's just a little bit left. There's one more party, I believe, that is coming shortly. So I'm grateful for that. The reason I wanted to pull this is not my disappointment in the settlement, settlements happening with the parties involved, but to look at the reimbursements chart that you will find. It's on page 2 of the letter from Angus and Terry. And just wanted to point out to my fellow board members, and maybe this might be behind Director Scobie's comment. According to the contract, legal fees are 33%, which is, we understood that, and we knew that was coming. There's mediator costs, in-house costs, et cetera. There were a couple of things here that were surprising to me. One, which is 10% interest on costs advanced. We discovered that is in the contract. That perhaps, Jason, you can speak to if that's pretty standard for a 10% interest on costs advanced in this kind of a contract?
Director Asen, I'm not sure that I could state whether or not that's standard because I don't practice plaintiff's law of this type. I will tell you that I commonly see interest charged. 10% would be the maximum amount allowed by California state law, and that's what apparently is being charged here. Whether or not it's standard to go with that 10%, I've seen it less. I've seen it less, and I wouldn't be able to put a number on what percentage go with 10%.
For that. The other piece in there is then that third line, which is the expert costs advanced by Angus and Terry, and a total of almost $92,000. That's about 75% of the actual legal fees. And so that brings the total bottom line to almost more than 2/3 of the actual settlement. So what that means is in the end, the district with settlements totaling about $371,000 gets $120,000 out of that. So I'm grateful for the work on this and for all the parties involved bringing this to a conclusion. I'm disappointed in that bottom line. So just want to make sure the board is aware of that, both for what's actually happening and for our future considerations, should we have to do this again. I would like to ask staff if they would be in touch with Angus and Terry and just ask for an invoice on those expert costs, just so we get a sense of what totaled almost $92,000. And I think that's a fair question to ask before we finalize that with them. It's my understanding that does not affect our acceptance of the settlements from the parties involved. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So the board can accept these settlements while still asking Angus and Terry to provide documentation for finalizing our accounts with them. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any comments or responses from other members of the board on that?
This is Felicity. Thanks for, highlighting that, Eric. And it does remind us all of the importance of going through a proposed contract and looking at the questions, looking at the proposal carefully before accepting it. So yeah, thank you very much for bringing that up.
All right, any other comments before we move on from this then?
Well, we'll need your approval.
Okay, so at this point then we need to ask for a motion to approve the settlements as stated in the letter from Angus and Terry.
I so move.
I will second that movement.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. General Manager, would you please do roll call?
Director Easton,
Aye.
Director Carlson,
Aye.
Director Bazette,
Aye.
Director Scobie,
Aye.
Director Wooten.
Aye.
So that is passed. Thank you, staff, for taking care of that, and we'll look forward to that report. I'll check in with you to see what comes of that. All right, so now we move to item number 10, one of our fun items for the evening. We are coming to review, discuss, and approve the 2021-2026 strategic plan for the Community Service
Excuse me.
District. Bless you. All right, General Manager, would you actually, before we
No,
step,
you're gonna start.
yeah, I'm going to start that. If it helps if I look at my notes, doesn't it? Okay, so first of all, I just want to say I'm so glad we're doing this and we've come to this point in it. Part of that gratitude in this is I want to thank Director Scobie particularly. It was back on Budget and Admin last year when we had this discussion. And at first, when we were looking at lines and time and things to do, I was a little unsure, and she pressed forward on that, and I'm grateful she did. to have gotten to this point, something that we, with community input and a number of discussions between us, have come up with something pretty good. Now we've got a little more refining tonight probably among us, but this is the draft of our final document, and I'm excited, really excited to see this. I believe, General Manager, you'll lead us through this. We will not be going necessarily point by point unless there's something you want to discuss. We'll go section by section
Mhm.
and give the public a chance to respond to those as well.
Yeah.
So with that, General Manager, would you step us into this, please?
Yeah. So yes, congratulations to all of you for getting this far. And I, first of all, she is not here, but I want to thank Whitney Kahn for leading our community outreach with our stakeholders and the community survey and all of that. She just did a tremendous job. And then also reporting back on the results of that. Mike and Jim, also Mike Grassley, who's here, Jim Mogg, our CCNR officer, also did stakeholder meetings, collected information, and then Sherry, and I think it was Jed also I met with, and maybe Kellen too, provided input into the strategic plan. And Sherry especially wrote the different fire sections that you saw in the draft. So anyway, thanks to all of the staff and all of the board members and all of the community members and stakeholders that have contributed to the document and has got us this far. This draft strategic plan is a compilation of Brent's writing and also my writing. So please know that Brent worked on primarily sections A through D, and then left an outline for me on section E and the table. I then wordsmithed sections A through D, kind of made it more District D, and then also filled in the outline that he had provided and wrote the section E and also the table. So I wanted you to know that the table is really a reflection of the annual work plan that you developed for 2021, which is great. I mean, we've been doing this annual work plan for the last 2 years, and now my vision would be for you when there is a changing of the guard with the president and the vice president and the committees, and that occurs December, January, that everyone pulls out the strategic plan and then sets forth the table, which outlines the work plan for the next 1 to 2 years. So I think that this will be a great basis for us to do that. Also, I just wanted you to know that I think that reading a strategic plan is not always, you read it when you go to bed at night so that you can fall asleep. So, I mean, I know it's exciting for us, but for the general community, you know, it is a long document. And so I will be working with our graphic designer to see if there cannot be something that's a little bit easier to digest, a little bit more graphic. So once we get the word stuff done, I will then send it to the graphic designer so that we can have a kind of a graphic depiction of our strategic plan, our values, our mission, things like that. So just know that that's in the works. So anybody else want to say anything at this point, or should I just start by going section by section?
I think one thing I'll add just to help our deliberations here is there might be some minor grammatical pieces, whether it's a tense or a pronoun or something like that. What I'm going to ask, at least for our board, is maybe those are items that we can individually send to the general manager and use our time here more for content and focus, whether it's something to be reshaped. And if that's not to say if there are words we want to change that are important, let's do that. But let's try to discern that so that we can use this time well and focus the content. Okay.
I agree.
All right. So
Okay.
with that, let's launch.
Let's go. Okay. So does anybody have any additions or any discussion items for the methodology and section A, which is on pages, well, I'm really sorry.
Five.
It would be 5 or 6 of the
5.
strategic plan.
Anything from board members on section A?
Is section A, I'm sorry, is it headed as methodology or it's not the
No, it's
introduction?
introduction. So it's
Introduction.
Okay.
A is introduction, and then A1 is plan development, maintenance, and management.
Management.
Yeah, Felicity, I just want to comment that I have really appreciated the process that we've gone through. And I feel like I feel like it's been a very real process. And not just, you know, kind of sticking in the same direction and not being very creative. I feel like board members have and members of the public have really brought in things and directions policy directions and changes that they'd like to see develop as we grow as a community. So I just think that I appreciate the process that we've gone through, and I'm glad that we're getting to this point, but I feel like we've got a real, like a live living document that I'm really pleased with. That's all. Thank you.
I have a comment. I do find this document exciting, so just thought I'd share. But what I really like, and I was not, that I think Jill's very good idea was that we revisit this every year. This is now the framework that we're going to use to set our work plan for every year. We now have our mission and our vision and our values to measure everything that we want to do in this district. They're all placed through this filter. It's here for us to work with and visit and use every year. And I think that I love that idea. I wish I thought of it myself. The way everybody uses these things, but I really like having this framework available to us, because the last 2 years we just came up say, this is what we want to do. And now we have, this is what we want to do. And it reflects our vision for the next 5 years. It's brilliant. So I'm really happy with this.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay.
So we've moved into section A. Was there anything in section A, board, that you wanted to speak to or address? Okay, seeing none, open that up to public. Anything in section A? It's pretty straightforward, but if there's something you want to speak to, feel free. Okay, seeing none. General Manager, I think we're in section B then. That would be the methodology you mentioned.
Methodology. Anything in methodology?
I have a couple grammar items I'll send to you outside of here. I would like to highlight a couple things that I'm just so grateful for. Highlighting financial stability, collaborative fire safety, proactive preventative maintenance, and healthy reserves. There are some really strong things in our planning considerations that I'm really grateful for from the very beginning of this report. So glad for that.
Okay. So anything in methodology? We've got B, B1, planning considerations, B2, definitions. Anything there?
I actually have a question on the bulleted list under B1.
Okay.
There is a gap in proactive community culture activities in Cameron Park. I don't know what that means.
Anybody on the board want to speak to the remembrance of that?
Fourth bullet from the bottom.
I think that's addressing what we were discussing of the importance of having, I think, recreation programs, you know, so that we can continue, especially coming out of a pandemic, to create and enhance our sense of community. So that, I mean, that sentence it does come across as a little negative, but I think it's trying to point to the positive action that we want to prioritize of creating community.
So I remember proactive preventative maintenance. I would align that with like our pool heater. So, and our Browning reserve, so that we are looking ahead at replacement.
Sorry, General Manager, Director Scobie is doing the one right above that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Not a problem. Yeah, and I think the idea is, they're especially recognizing coming out of COVID, we have lost a lot, lost most everything that we used to do. let alone the things we were moving toward doing to create community culture.
Yeah.
So if there's a different way to say that,
I would hope so,
Can I-
because I don't understand what it means. Is it meaning coming out of COVID that we haven't had Parks and Rec for a year? Is that what it means? I don't know what the gap is.
And it actually relates to the challenges of bringing back employees due to COVID. So you're addressing COVID with specificity there. Maybe those two should be next to each other or more connected. So one is about our community, one is about our employees, but it's acknowledging that COVID is an extraordinary situation in our history in this community.
Okay, I think I'm now with the bullet that you guys are on. And if my memory serves me right, I think this is in response to the community survey and how the community survey talked about that we needed to do more to create community. So I think that create community came out of that gap in proactive community cultural activities. So I think that that's where it came from, because of the number of people that commented that there was not a sense of community in Cameron Park.
Okay.
would we reword that then, Director Scobie, maybe to say there is a desire for greater proactive community culture activities, or a desire for more proactive activities to create community culture? Because I think that captures
Yeah,
it too.
I think that just rephrasing it, we can say we recognize there's a gap, but we actually want to take action on it. It's been brought to our that we need to do more to create culture in our district. So I just didn't know what it meant. I do now. Maybe it can just be reworded. I'm happy to leave it to staff to reword that, or maybe someone else can come up with a question. I just didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad to have the conversation, because all of you had a different take on that. So I think if we're all in agreement that this bullet was in response to the feedback from the community survey about the lack of the feeling of community here in Cameron Park, I can write something for that, if you're all in agreement that that's what it should be. Yeah.
I am.
Okay.
Do you want to include the nuance of that coming out of COVID too?
I can.
Depends on what and I don't want to get too sucked into this, but if it depends what the feeling, the communication that you got through this community survey was, because putting that in perspective, it is, just reading the top of the sentence, the planning effort focused on a number of existing conditions as identified by the board of directors and staff. And one of those conditions apparently is there's this thing that we're talking about. So I don't know that condition is just about COVID. I think that condition might be something that existed before COVID, that people feel like they want a stronger sense of community.
That's a good word.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want to leave that to staff to reword,
Yep.
and do that final draft? I think they've captured what we're going for there.
I just have a point of order question. So I know we're this is sort of my understanding is the last chance for us and the community to input on this. Is the idea that we approve it tonight and then there might be a tweak or two that staff to finalize the wording?
I think the idea, Director Carlson, is that we'll decide that when we come to the end.
Got it.
We'll know that based on our conversation and any tweaks or adjustments that we make.
Yeah.
And I think the range is what you said. We might just have a couple tweaks and say, take it, we're done. Or if there's enough, it's bring it back. We could put it in consent calendar next time just to look at. And if we need to discuss it, we can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else from board on section B? Then to definitions, core values, vision statement, strategic focus, and strategic goals. These are just more defining pieces. Okay, hearing none, I'll open that up to public. Anybody in the public wants to make a comment or ask a question on this?
I don't see any hands.
Okay. Then we will move on from section B. Now start to get into a little more of the meat of it. Here we go. Section C. General Manager.
Okay, C1, our mission statement is preserve our community's quality of life, including the health, safety, and well-being of Cameron Park residents.
I was going to throw one piece to my fellow directors on this. In rereading this, that first word, which is always an important one, preserve. I don't feel it needs a big discussion, but just wanted to ask. It struck me this time as a protective language, as we want to preserve something that has been, as opposed to, do we want enhancing language, where we're trying to make better and build or something, I don't know. And perhaps preserve, okay.
A more neutral term might be to continue. It isn't quite as holding back as much.
Anybody else have thoughts on that?
I kind of like what you're, yeah, it's Felicity. I kind of like what you're saying, Director Aston, about, we're thinking of the future. We're trying to enhance or develop. I'm not sure what the first word could be, but I actually it's evolving. It's more of a thought of evolving in a positive manner rather than just kind of preserving the past forever.
And that's not to the exclusion of what we've done before, but
right, exactly. And I think that our community is growing and changing in many ways. And I think it's important for the sense to be that we want to definitely keep our sense of history here, but be a community that's evolving for the benefit of the quality of life of the residents. I don't know what that word would be though, but I like your thought, Eric.
Ellie, you're muted.
Yeah, go ahead and chime in there, Director Wooden.
Maybe Chris can help her.
I already did. So it's on her.
Okay, yeah, it's on. Just look for that little unmute there at the bottom right corner there, Director Wooden. Move your mouse down there to the bottom right and you should be able to unmute yourself. We still can't hear you there, Ellie. Director Scobie, while she's figuring that out, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I like where you're going as well, and perhaps the term enhance instead
Got it,
of
Ellie. Stay there.
Okay.
Okay, hold on a second, Director Wooden. We'll let Director Scobie finish.
So perhaps just change the term preserve to enhance our communities. Our mission is to enhance it. Does enhance encompass preserve?
I think so.
And I kind of like to continue our community's quality of life.
See, I only have a problem with holding on to core values that are good. So I really don't know that we have to change what is right about our community. So I guess I don't see that change is always necessarily a good thing when we have something that is right or is working well.
And I would agree with you. I've said and for me, it's not a question of not keeping the things that are good. It's a simple recognition that we will continue to develop those things. As we're doing, for instance, in our parks plan, we've got the parks and they're good, and we're developing them or enhancing what we already have. That was the approach I was thinking, rather than just here's what we've got and we're going to protect this and keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
That's how it struck me, and that was just me. That was why I wanted to bring it to you all for your feedback. Unless there's any other thoughts on that, I don't want to get stuck on one word. We can open it up to the public if they have any other thoughts, if there's a wordsmith out there.
See any hands? What about enrich? Enrich would be another word that might.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like enrich as well.
yeah.
I could go there.
That would not be bad. Except I have to erase this.
I have great faith in you, Director Wooten. So would we want to change that to enrich our community's quality of life? My only other question then being including the health, safety, and well-being. I don't know if we want to put that, again, refocus that to become toward the health, safety, and well-being, or for the health, safety, and well-being.
Yeah, I like the enrich our community's quality of life for the health, safety, and well-being of Cameron Park residents.
I like that.
Yeah, it's more direct.
Okay,
Cool.
sounds like we did that. All right,
Nice
so
job.
nice. Well done, folks. We've only got 500 pages to go. All right. Okay, so General Manager, this now is, and I'll read that, enrich our community's quality of life for the health, safety, and well-being of Cameron Park residents.
I like that.
That's awesome. That's
Wonderful.
I think that's an important statement. I'm glad we spent time on it.
That is good. That's where it all starts. Okay, let's move now to C2, core values. Anything in the core values that we want to address or touch?
I have a comment.
Yes, Director Scobie.
I like them all except for constantly improving the district workplace. I think we should just remove that.
Any other comments, members of the board?
Constantly removing.
I think the reason we had something there, maybe that, not that, but was acknowledging how important our employees are to our success. And so somehow putting that value on and on maintaining a working environment that brings out the best in our employees and felicitates the hiring of the best employees.
I agree, but I think that that's covered with respectful and collaborative leadership.
Well, then could it be, I mean, does it really cover employees? Is that understood? Assets, the personnel assets or something, human assets?
So we have the responsible stewardship of district assets. So we could just say district.
Would the world end if we remove that one sentence?
Not sure the world would end. We'll see if that's.
Oh, well, darn.
And
Maybe it's a constantly is the word, maybe continually. And if we're talking about staff there, then workplace does not speak to that.
I don't think so. It doesn't capture what I was thinking. I was thinking the human resources.
And I think we do value that. I agree. We value our employees and what they bring. I mean, we depend on them. They put into action what the board's vision is. I mean, we do value them. That's very important. I guess I don't see the reason I suggested that gets removed because I didn't see it saying that. And it also seemed to me as something of kind of like dredging up some of the past issues the district had that we don't necessarily need to bring with us into the future.
I'm thinking about this too, Monique, and so I'm going to say this, but anyway, for discussion, as I've mentioned to some of you, I'm reading a great book on boards recommended by the consultant for this. And, the point being that we're trying to serve the community. Now, absolutely, we value and we need a healthy and happy
Workplace.
professionals that run the district. But we don't run the district to provide them a healthy and happy place, right? So we wouldn't want to accidentally as some organizations do, I think really make it all about like the people that work there to the detriment of their mission. I don't think we're in danger of that, but it's not the reason that we have the district. But that being said, I think this could either be reworded or removed.
And I think it should be removed.
I can take a stab at rewriting something, embracing the concept of valuing, the district employees or workforce or something like that. I think that this issue came up because of the district's past practice of hiring temporary employee through a temp agency in a lot of very key positions. And so I think that, yeah, we're not doing that today, but I think that having something in the value statement for future boards to see so that when they, start making those, a decision about that, it might help, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'm open to having it reworded. I think that's fine. I don't think it's saying what we meant to say.
No, not at all.
So let me throw out some words that I'm hearing behind this. This has more to do with both culture and the workplace. So we're talking about a healthy and professional workplace culture, or just a healthy and professional workplace staff. What was that, Dr. Director Boone?
I'm reading it as a workplace, not the staff, but as the workplace. And I don't know. I just personally think it should be removed. And if someone can come out with something different, fine. But it reads very well even without that.
Well, if the purpose here is staff, then workplace does not address that.
Mm-mm.
So do we want to ask general manager to go back with this, and we can, now we're talking about there's things we're going to look at again. We don't necessarily want to hash that out right now.
Right.
Would we want to use words in the vein of a healthy culture, professional workplace, professional staff? Is that where we're going with this?
Yes, I
Yes.
like that.
One more word I think to consider is diverse. And I don't see that anywhere.
Interesting.
Where would you put that,
I
Sid?
think in that human resources piece, however Jill puts it together, but I think that word should be included as well.
Something regarding diversity, reaching all.
We value diversity and we value, quality, it's both, it's creating a work environment that brings out the best of everybody, or supports our staff or something to that effect.
Well, Sid, we do have diverse in the sentence above, serving the diverse makeup of our community.
Unity.
So we
It's
could
not the same as,
also,
not the same as the workforce though.
Right.
no, it's not the same as the workforce. So I'm happy. I like where Eric is going with his professional and maybe we can just come up with another word of maybe inclusive.
I'll work on it.
Okay. I'm fine with having staff go figure it out.
Yes.
Me too.
General Manager, you have some key catchwords from us for that?
Yes, I do.
Great. As always, we want to open that up. Any members of the public who'd like to speak into that too? You can do that now. Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none. That is the end of section C, our mission statement and core values. I do like that most of what was there, we all just have found that that's focused and good. So that's a great start. All right, now we're into section D, into a little more nitty gritty.
Yeah.
D is vision.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, offer up to you all to make comments on section D, but please note that Chief Sherry Moran's wrote the Firewise community section. So hats off to her for kind of capturing and setting direction for our fire department and our community on that. So
Yes. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, so we are in division. Does anybody want to pick one of these up? I'll go ahead and start with that first one. I'm just going to ask a suggestion, rather than be financially stable - ready for anything. That feels out of place in the way the rest of it's worded. I'm going to suggest we make that be financially stable and adaptable.
Thank you, Eric.
You're
I was
welcome.
going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I want you to
Yes,
know
I
that
like that too.
wasn't me. That wasn't me.
All good.
Any other comments on that first piece, or is it just the title and everything else is captured? Okay, we'll just kind of work our way down.
And I'm sorry, Eric, can you slow down for a second?
Sure, no problem.
I just think this whole section D is, I think this is where the rubber meets the road, for us having kind of provided direction to this body for the next few years. And so I just need a moment to, take to kind of review even the be financially stable and make sure I don't have anything else I want to add, but be financially
No,
stable.
not a problem. Totally
Balance.
possible.
I love that we are, that we're making sure there's reserves. We're talking about reserves and as the vision and yeah, maximizing revenue enhancement opportunities. So I really like it. And I just, again, want to say how different I think this is from maybe the 5 years ago plan. So I feel like we're really evolving as a community as we have, we're starting to stabilize and things are starting, I mean, knock on wood, but things are starting to get better. And I think this is the perfect time to be having a financially stable vision like this. So I'm liking it.
And I think for the sake of this, let's do this, the directors. The vision piece is a page and a half. Let's us talk through each one of those, and then I'm gonna open up to the public to speak to any one of those directly, rather than go through each one. Anything else on financially stable? Okay, next, Firewise community.
I really like it. I think it's right, succinct and to the point. I particularly like the access to insurance discounts. I mean, that's meeting a real community need. And we heard that tonight on somebody. So if we're doing a good job, that could be one of the results that directly affect our citizens.
Mhm.
I agree.
Hats off to Sherry because that just captures it so
Yeah.
well and well written.
Yeah, very well written.
Don't change anything.
Agreed.
I will ask to change one thing. We need a
Whoops.
verb. All of these others have verbs. We are be financially stable, enhance, govern, provide, take steps, plan. This one needs a verb. So let's make this, and Sherry, you can tell us if this is become a Firewise community or develop a Firewise community.
Become, yes, definitely.
Okay. So there's a very specific goal there, and that's wonderful. I wanted to ask you in that first one, and reduce the risk of wildfire through community involvement. Do we need to specifically include the abatement word in that, or is that broader?
This is broader because reducing or abating is part of the reducing the wildfire risk. So it's kind of, yeah, this is a broader
That's
statement. Yeah.
okay. The last piece then is that third one, access to insurance discounts. It's kind of a technical one. Is that a vision piece or is that a strategic focus?
So I kind of wrestled over this with following the guidelines of everything else. And so I just kind of wanted to like make that known that USAA actually gives insurance discounts in certain states, and California is one if you are a Firewise community. And so I guess I don't know if it belonged here or later, but I wanted that to be I just kind of tried to gauge it off of what, the other programs, and it just seemed like it was a big deal. So I'm flexible with that. It was.
I think that's very astute, Eric, you pulling that out, and I really like seeing that, Sherry. But I think you're right. I see your struggles. I think that should be moved down into the chart
Okay.
as something that we are, one of our goals.
Yeah, it becomes more a task.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't. So access to insurance is actually the responsibility of the homeowner or the property owner.
Mhm.
That's
So
right.
I would not necessarily put that on achieving Firewise community certification would certainly be on staff's task list to work towards that, but the access, so, you know, and even if you put it in the E section, again, that's really about staff's work
Yeah, it was
or
tough.
the board's work. So that we could add it on to, let me see, complete construction, work on expansion, improvement, begin work. Okay, it
But-
says E to D, when we get there, you could tag it on to that, begin the process to create a nationally recognized Firewise community to create access to fire insurance discounts where appropriate.
Yeah.
Or to enable access. I'm in agreement with that general movement. Chief Brands, thanks
So
for
am I.
telling us this. This is hugely important. And I think it's more an educational component and a motivational component to get the
Yep.
community involved. Once they know that, they'll be hopefully more engaged and motivated. But I think it's true. We can't provide that access, but we can educate and enable. By
Yeah.
So we're
becoming
going to
Firewise.
move this from Firewise Community, correct?
I
And
think
move it
the
over.
suggestion here
Okay,
is to move the access to insurance discounts piece, however we end up wording that, down into section E, the strategic focus. And we can put that underneath and reword, because, you know, preview, one of the pieces I was thinking to add there is a line about education in that Firewise community section. And that could be something that we tag on to that as well, because I want it highlighted. I think it's spectacular. And we've heard enough from our community that this is something we should address if we can.
So I want to play devil's advocate here. The Firewise certification would come about because of the actions of our fire department, and they would get, and presumably they would apply for that based upon what they do. I mean, so it's not just the specificity of that, but it's something we are hoping to accomplish and to educate our community about. So I can see it in a very different way. And we would not get that access if we don't get that safe Firewise certification.
May I?
My understanding is that it's not so much the fire department 100%. It's really the community absolutely has to be involved in fuel
Yes.
reduction. And as Barbara said earlier, you know, everybody taking responsibility on their property.
Well, then maybe it needs to be prominent, I guess is my point. It gets lost in the other place.
Oh, and I would counter that to simply say, if we're going to stick to what this is, vision is a picture, focus is an action. And so the going after the insurance discount could be part of the picture, but it feels more like that's an action we're trying to move toward.
Okay.
That's how I would frame it, as one of 5. So I don't want to diminish it. I want to put it where it's most effective.
So where are we moving it to?
So that's the question of the board. Do we want to take that access to insurance discounts to then put it in? Because it's not our job to provide the access. It's to educate people that it's there for them. Want to put that under strategic focus for when we come to that?
I'm in favor of moving it, yes, to E2D
Okay.
area.
I think we should.
I
move-
would second that.
I don't know. We need a motion that we can just do it.
No, I know.
No, that's good. I just love that you jump right in. That's good. Okay, so we'll move that and bring that back to our conversation in E2. Great.
E2. All right.
Okay, anything else in become a Firewise community? I love that this is here. Okay, let's move to the next. Enhance the sense of community. Anything, directors?
I just struggle with the concept that if we provide exemplary service, I don't see how that makes us feel more like a community. Maybe it's because I'm thinking specifically of like the front desk at the community center. Maybe it needs to be more, I don't know. I struggle with what that means. I don't know what exemplary service delivery means. It seems like it's very, very so broad that I can misinterpret it.
So Monique, isn't it maybe more the cultural piece that we talked about before? A culture that is welcoming and inviting?
I like those words. I like the effective communications is key. I think recreation programs create community, and the park creates community, and the well-maintained, I think all of those do. I just don't know what the first piece is.
I think that kind of a sense of belonging and a sense that it's a sense of place that you're doing. I think that in the past, because we had so many recreation programs, but the enrollment was low. So classes were canceled a lot. Or because when somebody came to rent the community center, they never got a return phone call, or the prices kept changing or something like that. I think that those things contributed to a lack of community because people were not engaged in the services and the programs that were being offered here because they didn't have a warm fuzzy feeling about us. And so I think that it's important to have good customer service. I think that that is the base of all that you do. And when that person walks in the door, you want them, like Sid said, to have a sense of being welcomed and to belong.
Okay, that makes sense to
I
me.
feel
Thank you
that
for
way
that.
too.
Because I do hear, I'm sure the rest of you hear more complaints than you do compliments. So if there is, you only hear about things that are broken. So that is one thing that I hear that could be improved, that drives people away, as you're saying, Jill, when things are not working properly or welcoming. So, okay,
Oh.
I think I'm okay with that unless other board members have a different viewpoint.
I think it's good, personally.
Well, and I would say it reinforces for me what is the first piece, which is people in the office, which is Kim on the phone talking to different sports teams, which is Mike at the lake and his staff. It's our team, our staff team, and the way that they deliver their service to our community and how they first engage. That's one of the first pieces in creating community, because if our community interacts with them and connects, they're going to feel more connected from the get-go. And I see that with our staff.
Feel
I mean,
good.
they do such a good job of that. So service delivery does feel a little staid, but it is what it is.
How about the word instead of exemplary, which may have thrown people off because, how do you gauge that? What about caring? You could use through caring, a caring service.
That makes the connection.
Or inviting.
Yeah.
I like caring. I think
That sounds good to me.
One other thought, I like that too. I think both of those, switching out that word would probably help me. Yeah. The other thing is that we were able to realize that access to insurance discounts was a task. Have we put tasks in this sentence as well? Such as effective communications. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out here for discussion. A well-maintained community center, is that a task? Or is that, I don't know. I'm open to thoughts here.
I understand what you're saying, Director Scobie.
But it is a well-maintained community center. I think that's,
I think,
I think that's the bottom line.
well, I reconciled it this way, Monique, is these things paint a picture for me. What creating a sense of community looks like. It's caring personal service, it's effective communications. I'd like to add engaging to recreation programs. It's the only one without that kind of an adjective. A robust park system and well-maintained community center. Those things create a picture, which is vision. So it's like, this is where we want to go. There are more specific things that actually make that happen. Does that help?
Yeah, yeah, I just said it was more for, the other comment, only last one would be, all of our other bullet points are very short to the point.
Yes.
Would there be any value to making this 2 bullet points?
I don't understand what you mean.
So the create a feeling of community is very long. Would there be any value to just putting it into 2 bullet points? I might just be like splitting hairs here.
I thought it was long too, but I didn't know how to break it up.
No, because you'd be duplicating.
You're kind of embracing all the different programs. I don't see how you'd cut it out.
I have a proposal. So I think that bullet, create a feeling of community, that those words actually rather duplicate the title bullet, enhance the sense of community.
Yes.
So maybe, maybe you could, and I agree. I don't want to get too wordsmithing tonight, but something like that 3rd bullet that starts right now with creative feeling of community, maybe it could be provide caring service delivery, effective communications, engaging recreation programs, etc. But I don't think you need to repeat the creative feeling of community because you've already said it at the subtitle bullet. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And you'd start with the word deliver welcoming service,
Yeah.
effective, and so forth.
It's a stronger statement.
Provide or deliver, or both.
So what?
Provide.
How about we provide caring personal service, effective communications?
Providing.
Caring personal service sounds like a specific industry.
I know.
After care.
Caring service delivery, that's fine.
Yeah.
I like
Okay.
caring.
So I think, you think Jill has enough now to maybe shorten that up a bit?
I think so.
Yeah.
If we're good.
Yes. I saw 2 thumbs up from her, so I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, that brings us to the end of enhanced sense of community. Next one, govern effectively. Monique, I'll just follow up with you on that second one. The second bullet for govern effectively is really long. And like you on community, this one felt like it had more roles and service things than just a broader picture. So I'll throw that out for director consumption. Can we summarize that second bullet point more succinctly, or do we need to?
Well, it seems like the educational opportunities is one item.
So yeah, you could actually make it 2 bullets, right where there's the word regarding. So after staff, put a period and then eliminate regarding, and then just have the next bullet start with value special district services. I'm not sure, but then I can make that next bullet.
I guess what I'd say is everything there is repeated in the strategic focus.
It is.
At which point that says to me, we don't need it in the vision. This is where we could use a summary, because those things feel like very specific things that will help us govern effectively rather than the picture of what governing effectively is. That was my impression.
So the task, and Sherry also with insurance had the same task. The task to staff was under each one of these items is to come up with a few descriptors to paint a picture of what that vision look like? And so that was our task, is to paint this picture, as Eric said. So so painting a picture of or defining what govern effectively looks like. We could leave it just with maintain Special District Leadership Foundation certifications. But I was trying to paint a picture, I guess.
Right.
I think it's super important what's delineated here.
Right.
You know, and it's something that I think is we've evolved again and moved through and understood the importance of all this. So I mean, I like it, and I think it can go here. I wouldn't get rid of it. If, you know, maybe it can go into more down in the E section, but I think it works here. I think it provides a picture and is really important.
I wouldn't change one word of it.
Maybe it could be broken up into 2 sentences though, where it says and role of special districts could be a period.
Yeah.
And then something about also services provided by the district. I know that's not a great way to, that's a terrible way to start the sentence, but I think that could be a different sentence.
Yeah. Okay. I can work on that.
Yeah, I'd at least divide that into 2. And I guess my question is education opportunities the only thing we're going for here? Or is it something better, or not better, but bigger?
Well, it's kind of governing.
I mean, it's education opportunities, including good governance practices.
Right.
So I think it's a leveling, it's reminding the leadership that while this is, you know, what we do is oversee fire protection and waste management and all that, that there's a whole kind of other thing that we need to continue to study, and that's that's just good governance practices. So I think it is education, but it's a bit more than that too.
This is just bringing it back to the framework
Right.
of vision is this, strategic focus is by doing this.
That's true.
So vision establishes the strategic priorities. A strategic priority to me feels like creating education opportunities, educating residents and staff about these roles. Now, I can be convinced that that is a picture. I advocated for that earlier on another one.
I'm going to be really terrible and say, leave this one alone. Govern effectively.
Well, it sounds like there is some agreement that we could at least do this, this one bullet into 2. Are we good to leave that to staff to take up and run with?
Yes.
Yeah. But
Okay.
it is duplicated, and that concerns me that we're not clear the difference between this is our vision and this is how we're going to achieve it. We need to govern effectively, but everything under there is how we're going to do it. So maybe throw it back to staff too.
Yeah, let's take this whole one and give it back to staff and see if they can bring, we're gonna obviously look at this again at this point. Jill, can you work with that?
And I can, and you know, I think if somebody, you know, Monique or, you know, anybody has, you know,
Like this.
specific question, you know, suggestions, you know, give me a call.
So this is where we'll remind you, if there are things that we don't want to expand our discussion with, write it down right now, make that a note to Jill. She'll compile all that in her own reworking of this. Okay, are we good to move from govern effectively?
Yeah.
Hearing none, I'll say yes. Next one, provide the right set of services to the most people.
I've struggled with that title, that right set of services doesn't sit well with me.
All right. I have a comment when you guys are ready.
Can you expand on that a little, Sid?
I think we're trying to meet needs or to be with some specificity or adaptability. So it's just the right set of services. Sounds like you're fitting for a set of shoes or something almost, or a set of tires. So it's meeting the needs of a variety of or diverse group of people or something like that, but it doesn't sit well with me. So maybe we have to work backwards from what the action items we had for a title that better fits it.
That's a good cue.
What
Director
about-
Carlson, did
What
you have
if
something
we
to say on
just
this?
erase the word right?
Yeah,
Provide the set of services to the most people.
Director Carlson, you said you had a comment on this.
I do. This is going to be staff if you like it, the idea, but I actually think that this subset of bullets honestly could be mashed up with the one that we talked about 2 sets ago, the enhance the sense of community. I feel like they're a bit duplicative. They both talk about parks, they both talk about recreation, they both in a way talk about communication. And I think, and I know we already sort of completed our discussion of enhance the sense of community, but I actually think that enhance the sense of community really maybe should focus more on the communication side. Like, and I appreciate where the right set of services to the most people is coming from. I think that comes from the concept of more active listening with the community and more surveys and more like what recreation programs do you want and what's going to really serve the most people as we develop and change as a community. But so I'm thinking personally that enhance the sense of community could be trimmed. You could trim some of the recreation and park stuff out of it and build up the communications side of it to enhance our sense of community. And whatever you want to, we end up titling the provide the right set of services to the most people. I think that this one could focus more on the parks, recreation, CCNRs. I don't know if that makes sense because you have to communicate to do those functions as well. But I think those two could be revised and separated out or combined.
Mhm.
I see where you're going with this, Felicity. It seems, I agree, it does seem duplicate. The first 2 bullet items, the only thing unique under this one is the CCNRs. So.
I didn't hear what you said. The only what out of this
The
one?
only thing that's
CCNRs.
different is the CCNR aspect. So maybe the title is wrong. Provide the right set of.
And it's not the most people. You're looking at fairly specific groupings of people that want something or need something.
So let me help you out here. I struggled with those 2 sections as well. Using the headers that our consultant had developed. And so I would be happy to go back and look at consolidating those 2 and coming up with something under the header of enhancing the sense of community.
And you know what? Our CCNRs are a part of our community. They
Yes.
are very much a part of our sense of community, and how we feel and how we want our community to look and how we comply with and respect our neighbors and so forth. So perhaps, maybe we should have Jill or staff go back and rework it.
Yeah, I thought it was important that we try to touch on all the services that the district does. And that was something that was lacking in our last strategic plan. So.
Then maybe it needs to have its
That's
own.
Parks and Rec also, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll work on it and I'll bring back some.
Okay, great.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll just comment that I do appreciate that. I feel like the CCNR function is becoming a more outgoing, if you will, community engagement tool as a first face to the community sometimes. So I think that would work really well with the communication. So anyway,
But, excuse me, wouldn't Parks and Recs also be in this group?
absolutely.
It absolutely, and it is there, Ellie, because we're looking at combining, condensing, both enhance the sense of community and provide the right set of services. You'll see an enhanced sense of community, a robust park system is mentioned, as well as in the second one, proactive management of parks and recreation facilities. So it's represented there. And I agree with my fellow directors. There's, I think, duplication here. So we can probably condense this. I do appreciate the idea we're trying to separate. There's a sense of community that is a little more harder to nail down, along with very practical, here's the picture of our place that we want it to look like. But yes, I would love to see CCNRs come under that umbrella as not as a punitive office, but as an enhancement development office. We're trying to help our community be the best it can be, and that's why they were set up in the first place. So.
But I also like Jill's comment that maybe we would like a bullet for each of our services. So I don't necessarily want to tie her hands if she comes up with something brilliant that is very clear. That maybe we could consider.
Okay.
But I mean, I see it as both. So that's what makes it so challenging.
Right. So General Manager, we'll hand this to you to take both the enhanced sense of community and provide the right set of services back and work with that. I'm sorry, I couldn't see if you nodded.
Yes, yes, got it. Sorry.
Right, I got 4 pictures up on my screen at a time, so I can't always see the body language. Okay. I'll throw in the word impact in that consideration. Moving past that, take steps for environmental sustainability is our next one.
I feel like I had a big hand in that. And I also see this as very much as a community identity. It's both a service and perhaps an identity, depending upon if it's how important it is to our residents. But it also ties in very much with our fire safe community because our actions do affect our environment. And if we can do whatever we can to mitigate those and mitigate our risk of fire, it's kind of all tangled together.
You know, the one thing we're
I
overlooking
would
here,
not change a word on that one.
yeah, is that, you know, we're setting a leadership by implementing our solar projects. Should we have something there? Because this, I like everything that's there, but the solar is something that we're taking a leadership role in.
It's in the
But
next
the
section.
so-
Next generation, new technology, something like that.
Well, I think that's what comes up in our strategic focus. That's going to be the practical step of here's how we do that. So I think the impacts to the environment are considered when making decisions is part of what drove us to that. So I'm of a mind to keep, if we mention that, that goes to the next section.
Okay, yeah.
I
and then
kind
the-
of think that, you know, just the waste and the reuse, recycling is very important because Bel Air's recycle thing in the back there is closing down. They will open another one, but it'll be quite a few months before they open it. And I think for you, reuse, recycling, waste collection is all right here. I would not change that personally.
Another thing besides solar is water conservation. And again, that we can maybe that's covered by that first one, but you know, how are we efficiently using the water resources we have in our parks or whatever? And I know we do this, the sprinkler system is pretty sophisticated and all that.
So then I'll throw this to my director partners here. The second 2 bullets, create opportunities for reuse and recycle and meet new waste collection and recycling mandates. Those again felt like more strategic. I could be convinced otherwise, but I'm wondering if those all come under a general heading of working a healthy partnership with waste management with our EDD partners.
Actually, that's why I would not touch this one.
Anybody else?
I think I like the way it is now more than calling out our specific partners.
Yeah, I don't want to call out a specific partner.
I don't either.
Because the only reason I say that is the create opportunities for reuse and recycle is not the job of the district. That's not our job. And it's so broad, I'm not really sure what's meant by it. That is part of what happens with us as partners with EDD.
But don't we have a recycling time during the year?
Correct.
I
In
thought we did.
partnership with
So,
EDD.
I think if Greg Stanton were here, he would say that the Cameron Park Community Services District is charged with waste collection and recycling. That's our responsibility,
Okay,
period.
that helps to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that does belong there then. Thank you, Jill. Okay, nothing else then on take steps for environmental sustainability?
Just per what Sid said with water conservation, which is just becoming more and more important. I apologize, but is that covered in sort of in the E level of this document?
Not, but it's a great addition. So I took a note of it already.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Director Carlson. That's good. And Sid. Okay, we have good to move to the next.
I think so.
Okay, last one in this section, plan for staff succession. Any comments or input?
Yeah, this Felicity, I think this could potentially just be a bullet under the good governance.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I wonder if plan for staff succession, professional development opportunities and advancement within organization provided for all employees. I wonder if these could fit under good governance.
Oh, good
That's
idea.
a great idea.
That
Great
makes real
idea.
sense, yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Good.
Great idea.
That sounds really good. And so if that's the case,
I like that.
do we want to then just take that bullet and drop the header? Because I was not comfortable with the plan for staff succession. That is way too specific. What I saw that as is plan for staff development, advancement, and succession. So there's the full path of that.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yes.
So
Plan for good governance?
put that underneath governed effectively.
Oh,
That feels more of a staff than a board function.
True, but it's the board that is ensuring there's professional it's going to be the general manager that ensures the other staff have these opportunities, but the board provides this to some degree to the general manager and sets the tone that that's something the board wants.
But it also ties in with our values that we value our staff.
Mm-hmm.
right.
So it does
That's
fit with that. I just don't know where it should go.
So what if we just say, put that sub bullet, just put that under govern effectively, and general manager, maybe you can find a way to make that fit, because at that point it lines up with the second bullet under govern effectively, because we're talking about education opportunities, we're developing board members. The next bullet becomes, now we're developing staff too.
Right.
That is good governance.
Yeah.
Does
Yes.
that help?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay, and at that point, I would say, should that maintain special district leadership foundation certificate go third, or should that go under strategic focus?
Focus.
Yeah, strategic focus.
Okay. All right, so the idea here is to move the bullet from under plan for staff succession and drop that section, move that bullet under govern effectively, and then shift the first bullet in govern effectively, which is the maintain the special district certificate, into strategic focus.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got it?
I am, and I just governing effectively, I think is a really important thing. And I think that, I don't know, I kind of like having the maintain special district leadership foundation certifications under that vision, because you don't have them all yet. You know, and so, and if somebody were to say, well, give me an example of governing effectively, where would you point? You would point to the Special District Leadership Foundation, And I think that that does paint a picture.
You know, Jill, I had some PowerPoints when I came back from that, when I went down to the Good Government
Mhm.
Seminar. And they have very top level thoughts of how you govern effectively. And there was like
Okay.
2 specific charts I was going to go pull up and review and send to you. And
Okay.
they're very high level. They're not as specific as those items. So I
Okay.
still think that might be more of a task.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine.
So, but there was some good stuff in there that I think is what, you know, we can't, I think we know, but we just need to, it's hard to get it down on paper.
Express it.
So maybe what we're trying to do is that Special District Leadership Foundation certification. What is the purpose of that?
It is to prove that, well, not prove, it is to demonstrate
There it is.
that we are knowledgeable and effective in administering our duties as our duties for overseeing these services for the district.
So demonstrate, I think is your word, under govern effectively. Demonstrate efforts to, and take it from there, Jill.
Yeah, it's like, it had to do with board communications. It had to do with how to problem solve. That was one of the other ones under good governance. It also had stuff like making sure to be fully representative of your community. There was some good things in there that I think we could use.
Paint a picture. Okay. Yeah, I think that's great.
So Lisa, I can get those in front of you and see how well they fit.
Yeah. Okay. So right now we have taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullets and narrowed it down to 5, which I think is really great. I think it kind of tightens up and simplifies your vision.
That's great.
Agreed. Sounds good.
Cool. Wonderful.
So I'm going to pause here and do a time check. It's 8:15. I want everybody to know that the next section E is predicated on the previous vision. And so each one of those bullets are kind of tied to financial stability, Firewise community and stuff like that. So this section will get a rewrite from staff, you know, because you have changed up those vision statements. So President Easton, I'll leave it up to you whether you want to continue moving forward or let staff go ahead and true this up and bring it back.
That's a good idea.
I would like to make an effort to even just take a few minutes because there's a couple of specific things I know for myself that I would like to see added to this.
Okay.
This part in particular. And directors, let's do our best. And if it gets too long in the tooth, we can come back at it next time. Does that sound okay?
Well, I kind of liked her idea because they bring it back corrected.
Well, I guess I'd love to see the bulk of our discussion be tonight.
All right.
When this is our big agenda item. And we have the time as we get further in the year, more gets added to this.
Well, it tells me you don't know how old I am. Go ahead, honey. I'm teasing.
I have great faith in you, Director Rubin.
Yeah.
Are we okay to move ahead
Yeah.
expeditiously? Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we're into section E, strategic focus areas. Let's start with E1, financial stability. I don't know that we need to read it as much as let's address anything that you want to bring up. Anything anybody want to adjust or add?
I'm good with this.
Solar is listed under financial stability. And the reason that I put it under financial stability and not environmental sustainability was because when the solar committee ad hoc and the board chose to go down this path, their single purpose was to save the district money. That was the reason that we did this.
And I apologize. I need to interject real quick. didn't move correctly here. I was going to stop at each section to open up for public comment, and I apologize, both Barbara and Dane. Section D, vision, if there was anything in there that you wanted to speak to or address before we continue to move on in section E. If there's anything, please raise your hand and contribute to that. Okay, seeing none, we'll continue on in section E.
Eric, may I propose a 5-minute break before we expeditiously move forward through section E?
That'd be fine.
Ugh,
Do I have a second to that?
I'll second that.
I figured,
All
Ellie,
right.
you've been doing that tonight. Okay, we will take a 5-minute recess. So Chris, if I could ask you to pause the recording, not stop it, then we can continue that when we come back.
Yep.
Don't stop it because I'll have to call Dave to.
Thank you very much for that. All right, we are resuming our meeting after our short recess. We're picking up in the E strategic focus areas, starting with number 1, financial stability. We've started some discussion on that. There wasn't a whole lot at that point. I have one piece to add, but I've asked my other directors first if there's something you'd like to do.
Nothing from me, from Felicity.
Okay. The only question I would have is adding a couple of things that have developed that we are trying to do, which is attention to the impact of asset development, which facilities, both refurbishing, repairing, and building, as well as long-term obligations. That's something that is constantly in front of us. I don't know if that's worth putting in as a strategic focus for financial stability. That would be the impact of asset development and long-term obligations.
Well, I think E1A already addresses that, saying allocates appropriate funds to preserve and improve district assets. So I think that part is covered.
For the asset development, thank you for that.
Yeah.
What about long-term obligations? You think
And
that's
what specifically are you referring to? Our workers, our retirement?
yeah, it's CalPERS, it's health, it's all of those
All
pieces
that.
are having an ongoing effect on budgeting.
Well, I don't know.
And that might
That
just come under-
might be very well covered by the operationally balanced budget that we have to adjust how much we spend every year to make sure those expenses are covered. Is how we're doing it now.
And that's fine. I'm fine with that. It's an important enough piece. I didn't know if it needed its own or if we just lump it under. I'm good either way. Okay, hearing no other feedback, it sounds like we're good to just leave that
I'm
first.
sorry, the gears in my head are turning.
That's one of the things I appreciate about it.
I mean, I do agree. I think it's really important. So I kind of might be in favor of adding that, pulling it out and adding that in here.
You want to put it, develop a funding plan for capital asset reserves and long-term obligations? Because your long-term obligation may not be just, CalPERS. I mean, there may be a lot of different kinds of long-term obligations. If, let's say we did a loan, for the solar instead of, the PPA that we had.
So tag on long-term obligations to E1C. Does that capture it?
Say that again?
To add, because long-term obligations is the one we're asking about, because Monique had pointed out asset development really does fall under 1A. But this is long-term obligation. Add that to E1C. So develop a funding plan for capital assets reserved, and you could say dealing with long-term obligations or just long-term obligations.
I think that makes sense.
Okay. Can we add that then, General Manager? Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else on financial stability? Okay. Hearing none, let's move to E2, Firewise Community. And we've already changed the top of that, so we don't need to address that. Let's look at the items underneath. Anything adjust or add?
So it was here under E2D that I added a thought that we could add to provide access to insurance. So the sentence would read, begin the process to create a nationally recognized FireWise community to provide access to insurance discounts.
Does that sound right, Sherry?
Yes, pretty much. As a result, it would, yes.
Can I suggest, I'm sorry. Can I suggest we say, rather than provide access, we enable access?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I would say enable or educate on the availability of something like that, because yes, we're not. Like I said, while we should educate the community on that and it will motivate the community, we're still not it's a carrot, but it's not our carrot.
Yeah. But I like that in there. I want that in there, I think. That's a special thing to highlight in. So do we have?
Sid, you're muted, Sid, if you were talking. Here,
My question is there in fact some sort of a national certification to become considered a FireWise community? And if so, who actually grants that certification?
Yes, it's nationally recognized. It's called FireWise USA, and there's a checklist that you go down, and is it's very community involvement required. Placer County, there's communities all over California who have done this, and I think that there's a lot of communities that we can rely on to assist us, but they have a checklist that is blow by blow, tells you how to get there, the steps to take, but it is really the community. It's about community involvement and education. And if you go, it's about communities, neighbors talking to each other about fuels reduction. And if you just go to FireWise, if you Google that, it'll tell you everything.
So my question is, we captured that because that's something we would want to achieve.
And that's what I think we're adding here. Well, I take that back. The process of a nationally recognized FireWise community, that just covers it without going into too much detail.
I mean, is beginning in that sufficient, or are we trying to achieve, is maybe a little stronger statement?
Become a.
I'm just guessing that maybe 5 years is not a long enough time frame to do that. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I brought this up pre-COVID. I don't know. I know there's a lot of stuff that's out there, but I actually brought this up in our committees. I'm gonna say at least 2 years ago to do this. And I know COVID set us back, but I would like to think that in 2 or 3 years we could do this, but it depends on our community and the involvement that they take, because you have to set up a board of community participants who are engaged in trying to do this. So it really, that's what it really depends on. But it's about educating them.
So can we set a goal for 5 years and say achieve national recognition as a FireWise community?
Yes.
And even if we don't get there in 5 years, that's in front of us.
Yeah, I like that because it has a little more specificity to it.
I think so too.
Okay, great. That excites me. One other question that I wanted to ask, and Felicity, this came from some things that you mentioned over the course of the last year or so. One piece that's not in this is there's a lot of good work on prevention, but we also have to start thinking as a community about what happens if something happens. And we've taken a couple steps of that. Our community center is a designated place if there's power outages. I know that if there were events in our area, we could gather people at our community center. But Felicity, remind me the name of the service if there's a fire or an alert.
Code Red.
Code Red?
The Code Red, right. I'm wondering if it's time for us to talk about education for crisis response.
No,
That's a good point.
no,
It
very much
is.
so.
Yes.
You
I don't know,
it-
know what all that means, but probably
Yeah.
Right.
yes.
And you know, it's not just the fire. We have the freeway there. You could have toxic, noxious gases coming out of a tanker or something like that over there. It could be any number of things like that.
Right. And I want to be careful to keep it within the scope of our CSD responsibility, to be sure, which is kind of why I was focusing more fire. That kind of response tends to then come from CHP and yes, fire services. But I'm imagining paradise and what happens if there's an event and how do we help our community respond?
Well, think of Texas, though. I mean, we could have massive failures of the power system or something like that.
Right.
You know, ice breaking trees and that sort of thing. So it isn't just fire.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, go on.
It's all right. I want to acknowledge that your strategic focus area is a Firewise community. So if you
okay.
start moving into some of these other areas, we need to re-examine that strategic focus area. So, and we certainly can't do it all. And so, but I do agree that, the questions and the research and some of the initiatives that Felicity brought forward when she was on the fire committee, are very valuable. I'm just not sure that they belong in this little section.
Yeah, thank you. And I will add that I feel very passionate about this. But as I've learned over time, unfortunately, this really may be outside of our scope. So, maybe Chief Moran's or Jill, if you comment, but I'm very frustrated with the Code Red system, but and I've done what I feel like I can to express that to the party in charge of that. And I think it should be changed, but that's outside of our district.
Right.
And emergency response and services, I think, is actually county level and maybe fire and state. And I feel like we might be traveling sideways here, unfortunately, because I think it's so important. So I think we might be potentially looking outside our scope. So maybe Eric, if you could help me understand like how you see what you're saying that's within our scope.
Right. And that's where maybe I brought this because it is something that's rising in our community and all these pieces come together under that fire safety heading. This might just be something that we set aside for now and it comes up through fire committee. Is there a simple plan, a few steps that could be developed as part of our fire education for the community? If something happens, step 1, 2, 3. And it might be as simple as that. It doesn't necessarily have to go under this, but it's something I thought of as I was looking at a 5-year plan. What's going to come to us? The chances of a fire event in our community increase every year. So
Can I,
as community leaders, I just want us to be ready for what we are tasked to do. Chief Morantz, you look like you're going to say something.
I just want to say, Felicity has been so passionate about this for as long as I know, and I really appreciate that because that's our passion. And like as recently as this morning, meeting with OES, Todd Crawford, they are trying to fine tune Code Red to send out messaging kind of geographically based on the need. Because we know that if you put an emergency in a certain location, there's not a certain escape route. I mean, you can't define the escape route until you know where the emergency is. And so they're really working on that and trying to fine tune that. So I'm really looking forward to technology helping out with that. You brought up an emergency or a hazmat on Highway 50. Even though CHP is ultimately responsible, it's going to be the fire department who operationally responds and handles it based on the incident command system, which is ICS. So I think that that all plays into, you know, how the response is. So I think that, I'll continue to keep you updated on whatever we get from OES on the Code Red.
Sherry, can I ask you this?
Yeah.
The Firewise community plan is part of that response, crisis response?
No, it is really about community involvement and education. If you read it, it is about people. I'm going to say a majority of people who do not understand fire prevention and what they can do to help protect their homes and their community. And so that's the majority of it. And so there is literally a checklist that you go down. There's an assessment that happens. And if you make all those efforts to do all that, when you reach your goal, you can be qualified as a Firewise community, and then you get the benefits of, like I said, the insurance reduction, and there's other things that are out there that allow you for grants and other things. So, but we really need to bring in the community for that, and I think that, you know, now we're emerging from COVID, we can start doing that.
Okay, then I guess what I'll suggest is we don't need to add anything else at this point because that's going to create a longer discussion. But what I would ask is that the fire committee put it somewhere on their agenda in the future to at least begin a discussion about what is our responsibility and what could we do just in crisis response to help our community with a succinct message. So I'm willing
Can
to
I
do that.
just interrupt and say,
Sure.
the fire people have sent these out, and I have had more good responses from people who have received these.
Yeah, that's really good to see.
And that's wildfires are coming. Are you ready?
Mhm.
Can I one more thing too, is that evacuations to emergencies are the sheriff's department responsibility, period.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
you know, fire department is to protect life and property and put fires out, but evacuations is the sheriff's department, period. So when it comes time to that, we go into unified command with the sheriff's department, and we tell them where the fire is, where it's headed, and it's their responsibility to contact the residents and community and where to go and all that. So I granted, there's always room for improvement. We do need to improve, but we do need to bring the sheriff's department into this.
Okay, that's a good word. Thank you. I'll just take that away and noodle on that for another day. All right, anything else for our group on Firewise community? Okay, let's move to E3, create community. And we have talked about the create community and exemplary service delivery being combined. So what I'll suggest is let's make sure that the bullet points in these are ones we want, or if there's anything that can be condensed, we'll point to that, recognizing that staff will pull those together. So let's look at create community E3. Anything there?
not for me.
Yes, I have a comment. I don't know, perhaps it's already in there, but where does it specifically say more signage? I mean, for our community, because we do have signboards that aren't being used that we could use.
There is on the table, there is an implementation plan about the park improvement plan. And also it's somewhere in here where there is an implementation strategy for a park signage plan.
Okay, does that park signage plan, I interpreted to mean naming the parks. You're talking about using it for communications to residents.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The sign plan is much greater than just a monument sign going into the park. It includes informational signs, interpretive signs, you know,
Okay.
everything.
Great, thank you.
And maybe it's a sign program plan, or it would help you. This is taking too long.
Okay, anything else in create community?
Not from me, Felicity.
Not for me.
I'm good.
Good.
Sid?
No,
Okay, moving on to good governance. We had already talked about a little more summary on the governance and combining that with the staff succession piece. So
Right.
this is where some of those pieces in vision that are more specific will be generalized and then highlighted here. Anything else?
Not from me right now.
Not for me.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move to exemplary delivery service. We had talked about combining that with creating community E3. Anything to highlight or add in there?
I like these.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I
okay.
do too.
Hearing none there, are we ready to move to environmental sustainability? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that, environmental sustainability.
Here's where I've added a note about water conservation, and I can work with Mike and we can craft something if you'd like to see that here.
I think this is where I would say, do we need to clarify our partnership with El Dorado Disposal? Because talking about benefits and opportunities for reuse and recycle, it is our responsibility. They are the channel through which we do it.
you know, it's interesting you raised that, Eric, because when we did that, that opening of the recycling thing, I spent quite a bit of time talking with one of the gentlemen from the waste management, and they were talking about trucking stuff down to, I think, food products down to Davis or someplace. They were actually creating electrical energy by
Yeah.
burning materials and things like that. So we were paper, cardboard, that's what it was. What do we do with cardboard? Mountains of cardboard. So there are partnerships of, and it's somewhat on an experimental level, but we are doing some partnerships. And I was really impressed with that we're making a contribution to that. Newer sources of recycling and energy and so forth.
I'm again going to kind of speak for Greg Stanton, and he will say that this is while we have a contractor that works for the district through a franchise agreement, it is the district's responsibility, and whether it's El Dorado Disposal or somebody else. And if we started naming partners, I think that you then have partners with CAL FIRE, you have partners with Little League, you have a lot of people. Once you start naming one, everybody else wants to raise their hand.
And that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, where are we going to put the solar project? Is that something that we are demonstrating leadership or something to that effect?
So solar came in under financial stability.
But it could also fit here though, couldn't it?
Here's why. Solar came in under financial stability because the board made a decision that they wanted to implement solar to save the district money. That was their bottom line. And there were a lot of different ways that we could have put forth a solar project, whether it's a resiliency project with battery backup and some of these other things. But all of those different venues were discarded because it didn't meet the bottom line of the goal to save the district money. I'm happy to move it to environmental sustainability, but just recognize that I put it here because that was the district's mission initially.
But I'm not sure why it couldn't be included in both areas, because it serves different purposes.
Yeah.
It serves a model of using technology to say, you know, for reducing electricity, and it also saves us money.
My only comment, Sid, is that we never talked about environmental sustainability when we went forward with the solar project. It was
That's
always in the
true.
back of my mind, and it was always an impact that was important, I think, to sustainability, but it was never really discussed. And so I feel like if it does go here, it's revisionary. We didn't, where Jill put it is really why we did it. I'd like to think that we did it for other reasons, but that's not why we did. And perhaps if we
No.
did do it for environmental sustainability, we might have come up with a different project.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you would have.
I think if you reverse this, maybe, if it was not something that helped our finances, we would not do it. That's the driver. Even if it's environmentally helpful, we would not have done it.
But yeah, I guess I just see if we're doing some recycling projects in our parks, we're modeling for our citizens ways in which you can use, waste materials, plant waste. So aren't we also providing some sort of modeling for our community? It isn't possible to have both?
But
I guess my response on that would be, I'm not sure I want to duplicate because there's a number of other things we could put in multiple places. And then, we're trying to put it where it's primary.
And
I
I
would
would,
helping one of our fire departments with it.
Yeah.
There's solar
Yeah.
panels at the fire department.
the other thing, Sid, that might work is that we have, our first item under environmental sustainability is to approve a policy guide. Perhaps when we do the policy guide, we could also include sustainable actions that the district is doing, and we would include solar in that. Of course, that wasn't the driving factor, but it is something that would be properly placed here.
I like that. And I just want to say, I completely see like where you're coming from, Sid. I mean, it seems kind of silly to have it just at first glance, like have it not under environmental sustainability. On the other hand, I'm thinking we've kind of already, that ship's already sailed kind of. We've made that commitment. It's happening. We don't have to plan for it. I mean, we did that. And so I'm like, we've already done it. I mean, we can point to it as something that is environmentally beneficial, whether that was our intention or not. But I feel like we need, kind of like Monique is saying, we got to start figuring out what our policy is and kind of have this a forward-looking document.
So it's
Good
more
job,
of a
Felicity.
looking forward future than what we've already accomplished. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of way okay,
Yeah.
because it isn't up there yet. I mean, that's my way of looking at it. And everybody who
It's
drives
true.
the community service district is going to see it. And it says something about we value, we value that in our environmental plan.
And I agree with you, said it serves both purposes.
Yeah.
It does both things. I think where I'm coming on this is we want to put it in one place just for simplicity's sake, because there are other things we could put in multiple places.
Sure.
And the primary driver was finances. The environmental piece was a very welcome secondary piece. We were grateful for that.
Yes.
That's all. So, are you okay with it just staying in the one place?
It's a cognitive dissonance for me, but I can live with it.
We'll help you recover. Anything else on environmental sustainability?
No.
The only thing I'd ask Director is if on E6A that we're talking about policy to guide board and staff in making environmentally sustainable decisions.
So Jill, the sprinkler system with the timers and all that, that is water conservation. So that we're going to plug that in somewhere there, aren't we?
Yeah, I'll work with Mike Grassley to get something in there.
Okay.
And we'll put that in the environmental sustainability, though it
Yeah.
is saving us money too, and that's why we did it. So
Yeah.
we're all
Sorry about that.
saving money here.
Yeah. And I think there's a well at Cameron Park Lake. I mean, there's some more water things out there. Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful. All right, anything else on environmental sustainability?
I just have a really quick question regarding the policy. Do you see that the environmental policy going through budget and admin? Or you can do,
I have no plan for that right now.
okay.
How's that?
It says summer 2021, so it's coming up. Maybe that should say fall.
Yeah, that was before we had all the staff transition, so maybe so. Maybe
It
I'll have to
rained
relook
pretty
at this
soon, so
table.
be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say fall 2021. We'll come to that in a second, so let's make a note of that. All right, unless there's anything else on environmental sustainability. Last one is the staff succession plan, which we are folding in with governance. Anything on the two items there?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, I
No.
think that's all good. Open it up to our lone public. Barbara, if there's anything you want to comment on in this E section, our strategic focus, raise your hand. Would love to hear from you. Okay, so not seeing that, we will close that and move on. Last piece is the strategy overview. And anything here?
I think we should leave it to staff to re-filter. It's mostly, we've seen it all that we just went through
Yeah.
and review it again.
I second that.
Okay. Unless there's any other direction from other fellow directors, I think that's a good idea. As we've reframed some of this, let's give it to staff to go back and tweak and bring that back at our May board meeting.
Yep, sounds good.
Does that sound right?
Sounds good.
Okay. I believe, General Manager, that brings us to the end of our 5-year strategic plan discussion.
Yes,
Wonderful.
right.
Okay, so the action here is to review, discuss, and approve. So what we need a motion for then, do we need a motion, Jill?
No, I think that you are not as a unit, approving anything. All of you have gotten direction, so we'll bring this back next month.
Great.
And we'll talk about it again.
Cool. Well done, directors. This has just been such a good conversation. We're almost to the end. All right, we'll move on from item number 10 to number 11, select and approve local area formation commission election ballots. General Manager, could you lead us in, please?
So our district and all the other special districts in the county are charged with voting and casting a ballot for two candidates for the LAFCO. So again, let's see if I can get my words correct. Our district, along with all the other special districts in the county, are to cast ballots for two candidates to serve on the LAFCO, on the Local Area Formation Commission. There is a 4-year term and there is a 2-year term. The person with the most votes gets the 4-year term, and the person with the second most votes gets the 2-year term. So, and your Honorable Director Scobie is amongst the candidates.
And I'm the only female on that.
Go.
But I put you down as number 1 and Veerkamp is number 2.
Hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Don't give it away yet. Okay. Jill, anything else in the introduction to this?
I asked everybody to come with their, top 3 candidates. I'm happy to make a tally. We can have, I think Director Aston wants to have some conversation about pros and cons amongst candidates. So, just know that I'm ready to take a tally if you want to go in that direction.
So I'll put that to my directors. Do you want to start with a tally and then see where that leaves us if there's discussion necessary?
That
Yes, I
works for me.
Works for me.
All right, General Manager, why don't we do a roll call tally then? So you go down the list and we'll call out our top 3 in order.
Okay, so Eric?
Okay, number 1, Monique Scobie. Number 2, Tim Palmer. Number 3, Brian Veerkamp.
Okay, and Felicity?
Okay, number 1, Monique Scobie. Number 2, Michael Saunders, MD, and I don't have a number 3.
Okay. And we've got Sid.
Scobie, Veerkamp, and White. Scobie's number 1.
Okay. And White. Oh, I see. I found White. Okay. Okay. And we've got Monique. You get to vote for yourself.
I will.
Okay,
I didn't do that for nothing. So Scobie, Sanders, and then I did not do my third one, so I will give you
Okay.
one momentarily.
okay, that's fine. And Director Wooten.
Monique. And then Vera Camp and then Sanders.
Okay. So we have Monique as our top ranking candidate. And then we have 2 2s and 1 3 with Brian Veerkamp, 2 2s with Michael Sanders, and 1 2 with Tim Palmer. So I think Tim Palmer is with only 1 2. So it's really Brian Veerkamp seems to have the most votes in second place, and then Michael Sanders after that.
Are we submitting 3 or 2?
2.
Okay.
Anybody want to advocate on this? And let me frame this a little bit for us to make sure we're on the same page. Director Holly Morrison had been serving this for us for quite a while, and I'm so grateful she did.
Yes.
She brought so much value, both to LAFCO and then as a correspondent to us for everything happening there. There's some issues coming up in LAFCO, as you know, with fire consolidation discussions, et cetera, that are going to be really important. And I think we all feel that our voice at that table's representative is going to be very important for the unique quality of our district. One of the other considerations, as I looked at this, is to look at the span of representation on the LAFCO board, because it's full county. It's South Lake Tahoe all the way down to El Dorado Hills, to then consider how the different communities and populations are represented there for the discussions to come. So those were some of the big pieces as I looked at that. With that in view, is there any other consideration that you all want to put into that, or is there somebody you'd like to advocate for beyond the ranking we have?
I would just like to provide my number 3 vote
Sure.
is Tim White.
Tim White. Okay. So Tim ended up with 2 number 3s. Veerkamp has 2 number 2s and a 3. Michael Sanders has 2 number 2s.
I just want to, if you know, I like your framing that, Director Aston, and noting that we've got a couple of high-ranking folks here that are really Western Slope people, Cameron Park and El Dorado Hills. For me, that would be another reason to support Michael Sanders as coming from the divide, representing the divide and folks up there.
And that was, if I can echo that, it was part of my consideration too. And actually why I nominated Tim Palmer as the second choice. He is president there in Georgetown. He has served with LAFCO already. And yeah, just looking between the 2 districts and things that are happening there, I felt like he had more to offer at that point. Mr. Sanders has a great resume. I'm also looking at what they're dealing with in their district. And if you read the minutes for that, there's a lot happening in their district. Because one of my considerations too is how well is this candidate going to be able to give themselves to the work of LAFCO? And just looking at the Georgetown Divide Public Utility District minutes, they've got a lot happening. And Mr. Sanders is the president there. So I guess I was feeling like he's got a lot on his plate already. Not a knock on him, more of just they've got a lot to work with there.
Eric, you've heard the old adage, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't. And if they're busy, yeah.
I've heard that, and it means they're the ones that are going to get it done. And also his position there is it's still a part-time position. It's, you know, on the board. It's not a full.
Yeah, no, like all of us. So.
And also look how busy we are as a board, but we don't have those extensive minutes.
Good point.
No, Monique, and all the time that I've been on the board with you and heard people in the audience saying things that may be a little offensive, I have never seen you lose your temper or lose your cool. And I would never vote for anyone but you. So there.
I think fortunately we all did. So I think we're
think it
discussing
was
our number
unanimous.
2 choice right
Okay.
now.
So, General Manager, it sounds like at this point we have Monique is our number 1 and Mr. Veerkamp is our number 2. Is that right?
I think so.
Now Veerkamp became number 2 because he has 2 2s and 1 3.
Yeah, so that's more votes than the 2 2s for Michael Sanders, the 2 3s for Tim White, and the 1 2 for Tim Palmer.
I think we should proceed with that vote. I mean, I'm supporting Mr. Saunders, but I feel like we've got a clear vote on who the board as a body supports.
Well, unless we can combine our philosophy of Tim Palmer and Michael Saunders as representing Georgetown and coalesce on one of them instead.
That's true.
Can I ask, is there something against the El Dorado Hills? Well, Veerkamp is irrigation district, which is all over, but he's from El Dorado Hills, isn't he? Fire department or something.
Yeah, he was the fire chief in El Dorado Hills for a number of years,
Right.
served on their
He
board
was.
for a
So
while.
I guess my point is, do we have representation up the hill a bit more or not? If we have both Cameron Park and El Dorado Hills represented.
Mr. Veerkamp was also District 3 supervisor. So that
That's
was
right, yeah.
in that area. So in that sense, if you're going to advocate for him, he has represented a broader swath of our area and does that in EID.
Yeah,
So, and brings fire experience to something that's going to have that kind of.
I mean, he looks like a real strong candidate to me, but yeah.
So I would support Mr. Veerkamp as number 2. I would not Mr. Saunders, and I would Mr. Palmer if they came to that.
You would support Tim Palmer for number 2?
Well, that was my number 2. If there's no support there, then I would change that to Brian Veerkamp as number 2.
Let me go check out Tim Saunders again.
You mean Tim Palmer or Michael
Tim
Saunders?
Palmer.
You combine them into one person.
I did.
I'm sure that they'd like the distinction.
If I change my vote to Tim Palmer, does that swing it to number 2? Or does that just make things worse?
No, it doesn't make things worse. I guess you would have to have a conversation with Felicity, to see if she also would support, kind of the concept of getting somebody that's up the hill. So.
Yeah, I would if I could.
Or Sid, who has Brian Veerkamp as a 2. Ellie's got Brian Veerkamp as a 2. Felicity's got.
Don't give Veerkamp too many votes.
Yeah, I could switch
She's
my
gonna be
third
the
vote,
big
which is
kid in
White.
there.
I could switch White for one of the uphill people.
So.
Okay, board. So we've got a couple choices here. Brian Veerkamp at this point is the number 2 by votes. There is some desire to consider a quote up the hill person. At this point, it looks like that would be either Mr. Palmer or Mr. Saunders. So the question becomes, is either one of those strong enough that you want to move that direction, or do we want to put that into Mr. Veerkamp?
Yeah. With the 2 vote changes, you've got Tim Palmer and Brian Veerkamp tied.
Hmm.
I personally don't have an opinion for that, so I'm just gonna rest with the
I
vote
just
that I
don't
made.
want his votes to be as strong as Monique's.
No, they're fine. Monique is number one. We've already decided on that.
Establish Monique is number one.
Okay. But you know, Veerkamp's going to come in heavy, not just here, but every, other places.
Well, remember too, there's 2 seats here. One is a 4-year and one is a 2-year.
Got it. Thank you. I wasn't thinking about that.
Whether Monique slides in 4 years or 2 years, I want her there.
I do too.
I'll be surprised if I get either one, actually.
Oh, have
I
faith.
don't know how well known my name is.
I'll make phone calls tomorrow.
You're part of the Cameron Park CSD.
That's-
Yeah.
Hey, we're a
Take
larger
my
town than
qualifications.
Placerville.
Okay, folks, it's about time for us to make a decision on this.
We're stalling out.
What do we want?
Okay, well, we'll
I
have to flip a coin
I
unless,
could move my vote to Sanders then from
Okay.
Camp.
Okay,
That would give it 3 2s.
that would give it, I mean, Sanders was my original one, so I would move that back, but this is,
I have caution on that. I would prefer to either Saunders or Palmer or Veerkamp.
Why is that?
There-
Don't choke, Eric.
I think that Eric has done some research, so.
well, I think the idea of getting one of our
Yeah.
Georgetown folks as number 2 is my goal,
And that would be,
which would either be Michael Saunders or Tim Palmer.
Then I would change my vote just to support you in that situation, Monique.
Which is gonna have to be,
So I'm dropping Camp number 2 and moving to Saunders number 2.
well, then that puts Saunders as 3 2s with me, Felicity, and Sid.
no. Mm-mm.
And Veer,
Think about that, Sid.
Okay, so let me go down this because I don't know that I have it right. Eric, I've got, and I don't think Eric has changed his vote. 1, Monique. 2, Tim Palmer. 3, Brian Veerkamp. Felicity, I've got you with 1 Monique, 2 Michael Saunders. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And then I have Sid, I have you as 1 Monique. I think you moved to 2 Michael Saunders
Yes.
and 3 Tim Palmer.
No, White.
Oh, 3 White. Okay, got it. I have got Monique as 1 Monique, 2 Saunders, 3 Tim White. And then Ellie, I have you as 1 Monique, 2 Brian Veerkamp. Is that correct?
What was it? I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
2 Veerkamp.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian Veerkamp is number 2. So right now, you've got 3 2s next to Michael Saunders. And you've got 2 3s next to Tim White, and a 2 and a 3 next to Veerkamp, and 1 2 next to Palmer. So right now, you're looking at Monique and Michael Saunders. Michael Saunders coming forward with Felicity and Sid and Monique.
Well, I'm happy with that.
I would rather support Veerkamp as the number 2 with a broader experience in those choices between having been Supervisor 3, District 3, El Dorado Hills Fire, and now El Dorado Irrigation District. So this becomes then a vote, I think, General Manager to speak. How do we move from that forward on this limit?
Yeah, so there is paperwork to fill out, so you do need to vote. I would vote one at a time. So why don't we first take up Monique? You know, if somebody would make a motion in a second, and then we'll vote in Monique, and then we'll do the second candidate.
Thank you.
I'll
For that.
make a motion. We vote for Monique.
And I second the motion to nominate Monique to LAFCO.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Roll call, please.
Director Easton?
Aye.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Aye.
Director Wooten?
Aye.
Okay, now we've got our second candidate.
We have a motion.
I move to nominate Michael Saunders for LAFCO.
I second it.
Okay, Director Easton?
No.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Aye.
Director Wooten?
I don't think Michael,
No. So do you want to put that name forward, or do you want to vote no?
no.
Okay. So the second candidate, Michael Saunders, moves forward with a 3-2 vote.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your input on that.
I think it might be useful to do number 3 only in case. I don't think we need to do 4 and 5, but I think 3 would be useful.
There's only 2 spots in the thing that we have to fill out. So the form
Yeah.
only gives us 2 names, and then the president of the board signs it.
Okay.
Okay, well, the only correction I'd say to that is in the instructions I read is that you can rank them all. You don't have to. You only have to vote for one. But what I thought they did say was 1, 2, 3. And that third actually does become part of the voting.
That's what I read as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize for that. Okay. So do I have a nomination for the third?
I would like to nominate Tim White.
We
I'll
have a
second that.
Okay. Director Easton,
No.
Director Carlson.
I abstain from this one.
Okay. Okay.
That, yeah.
Director Bazette,
Yes.
Director Scobie,
Yes.
Director Wooten.
Yes.
So Tim White is number 3.
Okay.
Oh, I got put the wrong Tim. Okay, 3.
Yes, couple Tims there. Okay.
We got it. It's getting late for me.
Yes. All right. That is item number 11. Check that off. Now we move to board information items.
Oh, come on.
So now we move to general matters to and from board members and staff. General manager, anything from staff for us tonight?
I just want to acknowledge that I think I sent an email to the board members that the district has signed on to support the CSDA's coalition letter to the state legislature to allocate funds to special districts so that our special districts are not taking money away from other local government agencies such as the county. So also our district is advocating for the County Board of Supervisors. We've been in touch with both of our supervisor representatives for the county to also jump on board with this coalition letter to advocate the state to direct funds directly to special districts. So just know that that's going on.
Great. That's good.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and our solar start date for construction at this time is July 5th with a drilling date of July 12th.
Ooh,
Wow.
Oh,
Is that at both locations or just one?
Both locations, yes.
good.
So then part of that question, Sherry, if you're here. There you are. I know that some of this has impact then over the fire station with the tower installation. Can you give us a quick update on that, especially in conjunction with solar installation?
Yes, so the tower installation has been really challenging based on several contractors, but we got based on the high water table, they had to pull the soil out, let it dry, put it back in, compact it, and then put like a different type of soil on the top 18 inches. That happened today. So we're waiting for the engineer to certify it. I'm expecting them to measure everything out this Friday and hopefully dig footings next Monday, pour concrete by the end of next week. It takes 5 to 10 days to dry, and then they'll have the building put up. So I believe we're still on track with the middle to end of May to have that building up, and I will make sure the board is updated because I want to make sure you guys are out there. I want to see Monique hanging off the side of a building.
Hey,
I'm gonna see this just like her with the pole, and so we're gonna take pictures. I want the you know, on Facebook, and this is something that has been in the making for you know, since like 2005. So I can't tell you how excited everybody is. So yeah, so we're right on track.
That's great. Thank you for that. All right, any other matters from staff?
No.
Okay, matters to and from. Let's do a quick walk through. Director Scobie.
Well, let's see. I went to the new recycle location. That was interesting and fun. Can't wait to see it, especially since I went to the old one too recently, just to kind of do a comparison. I walked Gateway Park again and saw all the work, the second batch of work that's been done out there. It's really nice. It actually looks to me that the homes that are up against that park will enjoy a increase in property values because it looks really nice out there. You can walk it. I like it. So let's see. I heard some complaints about the buying the park passes online, that it was clunky and difficult. And I spoke with the disc golf club members about just disc golf stuff when I was there. And I also had fun being the Easter Bunny. I only got 2 miles on my Fitbit, so not as much as I had hoped. And our 2 swans at the lake that were nesting, their nest got marauded, so they're no longer any nest there. But we have a bunch of ducklings, tons of ducklings, and the goslings are starting to hatch as well. So we probably have about 15. Do we have 15? No, we probably have about 12 goslings out there. So they're super cute. The fishing line is piling up out there again. Unfortunately, I've been picking that up and talked to somebody about a dog on the disc golf course, and they didn't really appreciate me saying anything to them. So that was interesting too. And the only other thing I have is that at one point I thought it might be smoother if we switched the general manners to and from and the committee report outs, simply because I feel like when we get to this point, we're just kind of like sharing general information and wrapping up our business. So don't know if we want to reconsider that or not. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. That's a good word. We'll consider that. Director Carlson.
Yeah, just quickly, I was so happy to see some old friends from my old Sacramento Ultimate Players Association Frisbee group. They came up and played the disc golf course Sunday. They said it was really challenging, beautiful. They love the course, but apparently it's quite a challenging course. And they're attorneys, they're professionals, they're, you know, I think sometimes people underestimate who the Frisbee players are, but when I played with them, it was directors of organizations and attorneys and nurses and whatnot. So anyway, so it was great to see them and kind of have those two worlds come together and hear good things about our park from visitors. And that is all I'm going to update you all with this evening. Thank you.
Director Wooten, anything to and from?
Not very much. I haven't heard too much from the CCNRs, but there's several things that they're still looking into. And one of them is Royal Park and Archwood. But the other thing is the door hangers. They have went over very well. And that's about it.
Okay. That's great. Director Bazette.
So I had an inquiry about something called fire certification. And so what I discovered is different fire departments do different things because somebody wanted their insurance discount by fire certification. And Chief Fransk explained that they do the weed abatement thing, and I can't think of what that's called, and you can call and request that, and I don't know that insurance companies are giving you any discount for that, but just finding out there's different things happening in different fire departments. And then something I did share with Mike and Jill today is my local office of Lions Real Estate is going to do a community service day on June the 12th, and they're looking for like a park, maybe to plant flowers or something like that. And we're trying to figure that out. But we're kind of talking, Mike and I was pretty excited because has a lot of volunteer groups that have not been able to do anything because of COVID. So apparently that's quite a big event, and lots of people are eager and wanting to do that. So that's kind of a neat community involvement thing popping up. And we think by June, it should be pretty open by then to do those things.
Okay, my only report is, yes, I also got to go to the recycling center opening and envisioning and all that. And it's just fun to see that. I'm looking forward to that taking place, and starting to get emails from Prospector Soccer and some of these other community groups that are re-engaging. And it's just so nice to see these steps of reemergence and living again, coming back. So I'm excited to see what that means for our community this summer. All right, that's it for matters to and from. Committee chair report outs. I think for the sake of brevity, unless there's anything specific, because budget and admin is everything on everything that we did tonight, as well as report outs. Is there anything else, Director Carlson, that we want to highlight from budget and admin?
No, thank you.
All right, anything from CCNRs?
I think
No.
Ellie covered it.
I did.
And we appreciate that. Thanks, Ellie. All right, fire and emergency services.
We had a big request for becoming fire safety in a resolution, and that was kind of taken back for Jill and Chief Morans to work on some of the wording we were just not happy with. So that resolution, I think, is going to come back.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing what that comes back to us with. I think that's something's coming to the committee next month for that. All right, and then Parks and Rec was canceled, so nothing to report there. That takes us to our committee reports. And now move to the last part. We will be convening a closed session shortly. So, but at this point, we are open for public comment. So at this time, members of the public may speak on any closed session agenda item. I do not see that we have any public present. Is that correct, General Manager?
Yeah, I believe so. And yes, they're all gone.
Okay. So with no public here, we can move past public comment. And at this point, we will convene to close session. So we will.
Yeah. Chris, don't turn off anything because we got to move people into the waiting room. So.
Yeah, so we'll pause the recording at this point, I believe.
Yeah. Can do that.
Right.
And we'll say goodnight to staff.
Go ahead, Chris.
And we're back.
This is the report out of closed session, and that report is that the board discussed in closed session those items agendized for closed session discussion, specifically public employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 regarding general manager recruitment. And secondly, conference with the legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, one potential case. The board adjourned from closed session at 10:03 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.